I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the LG Intuition versus Samsung Galaxy Note dogfight starts in just a moment. But first, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One Paw Bandit game, which we turn around and give to you on the site at instantwin.phonedog.com. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working. They'll help you set up your pin settings, your camera settings, your contacts, and more. So when you walk out the door with this, you don't have to waste your time at dinner or with your significant other setting this up. You'll walk out the door working thanks to Best Buy Mobile. It's part 2, Intuition, Note. Let's do this thing. And the dogfight, which starts right now. Part 2 of a dogfight battle between two high-end phablet devices. You've got the LG Intuition over here, the Samsung Galaxy Note over here. This one's on Verizon, this one's on both T-Mobile and AT&T. It's available at Verizon now for $199.99 with a 2-year agreement. This one's available at T-Mobile and at AT&T for varying prices, and depending on specials, obviously those can range. Both are 4G LTE devices, at least on AT&T. On T-Mobile, this is an HSPA Plus device. But let's dive in part 2 of a dogfight battle. Let's start with the note-taking capabilities of both of these devices. You've got the LG Intuition over here, the Samsung Galaxy Note with the S Pen. Now you have a rubber DM pen over here. Unfortunately, I left it on my desk in my home office, but you do get a pen as well. Sadly, though, there's no place on the actual device to put the pen. And unfortunately, obviously, you can't use, because of the specialized technology on the S Pen, you can't use it on the LG Intuition. But you can see Quick Memo here, and then we'll load up S Memo over here. Excuse me. S Note, I should say. And we'll go in and create a new note. We'll go in here, and then we can draw on this one, so we can say hey there. And this one brings a lot of new features with Android 4.0. For example, one of my favorite abilities over here is to click on the shapes and go to Formula Match, Shape Text, Handwriting to Text. So I can circle this, I can square here, I can do like that, and mess around with a bunch of different shapes, and it makes them a little bit more perfect than my handwriting. Then you got text over here. And of course, you can do some awesome things on both of these devices, like change the way the pen looks, change the color, and more. And then you can see down through here, obviously, much larger. I can go in here and make it larger. I can save that, and it'll save that configuration over on the side, so I can always go back and access it as I see fit. So I can say, hey there. And same thing over here. Functionality is pretty decent and pretty much universal in terms of functionality and abilities. I can go in here and say the same thing, hey there. And again, it comes with a pen, but again, there's no spot on the actual device to store the pen, so you have to, like me, remember to carry it around. And then if you're in an instance like I am, you forget, you leave it at home, you leave it at work, and you're out of luck. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at this device. Either keep some spare rubber DM pens around, or make sure you have yours in your briefcase or in your purse or in your bag. But again, nice features on both. I like the shape feature here. I like the handwriting to text feature, so I can say, hey, which granted my handwriting is pretty terrible, but it automatically transcribes over to hey. And then of course you can do some cool things like knowledge search. I can type in how old is Bill Gates. Let's see here. How old is Sting? I think Sting's in his 40s now? And let's see what comes up. Of course, you can do that as well. Let's load up the browser on both of these devices, and we'll bring up apps, and then we'll bring up this over here and load up PhoneDog.com. Speaking of the browser on both, PhoneDog's already loaded over here. 4G on this one, LTE, and then HSPA Plus over on the Samsung Galaxy Note. And I'm going to put the pen back in here because I guess we don't really need that anymore, now do we? Put that down there. Portrait to landscape transitions. Again, like I said in part 1, both of these devices are great for content creation. So whether it's taking notes, browsing the web, you can do a lot of nifty features. Again, you take a picture here, snap PhoneDog, and it should allow me to, let me save that. And let's go in here. It should allow me to go back to the browser. And maybe it's the rubber DM pen. There's a way to screen cap, but I thought it was the quick memo button. Let's see what we've got here. Perhaps not. I wouldn't discard that memo. Let's try it one more time just to make sure I'm not. Yeah, I guess you can't. You should be able to screen cap on this one as well, and then over here you can press and hold on the S Pen. So if you're in an area on the site, for example, pinch to zoom, very responsive on the Note. But let's say press and hold and snap a picture, and then save screenshot, and then copy to clipboard over here. And again, I can zoom in, and of course I can make my changes as I see fit in the S Memo application over there. So I can send via and then hit delete. So go back to phonedog.com. Portrait to landscape transitions nice and fast, as it is over on the Intuitions. Overall speed on both of these devices relatively decent. There's not a whole lot of lag when it comes to browsing. And I did not mean to do that. The problem is I'm holding it like this. Pinch to zoom, responsive. And of course you've got the Android options here. You can add new tabs. As you can see on both of these devices, I'm going to bring this over into portrait so we can take a look and compare. And then down here, kind of more of a stock implementation, whereas over here it's more of a touch whizzed up in implementation, if you will, where you can scroll back and forth between the two devices and easily access both. So you've got that, 7 home screens on both, and then again, Gmail functionality, of course, is a result of Android, but I wanted to show you the newer version of Gmail if you haven't seen it yet. Here's what it looks like, and I kind of wanted to bring this up to show you how text looks on both displays as well, because you've got that 4:3 aspect ratio over here and a more conventional smartphone kind of ratio over here where it's easier to hold in the hand. But I'll bring up Google Plus just so you can see how both of these look. And you can see the added screen real estate in terms of width on the Intuition, but you can see the added screen real estate in terms of height on the Galaxy Note. So it just depends on your personal preference, and really it's going to depend a little bit on which carrier you're on. If you're on Verizon, you really want a high-end phablet device, and you're like, or tablet phone, whatever you want to call it, and you don't want to switch carriers, well, the Intuition right now, until the Galaxy Note 2 comes out, is your only option. Then over here, the Samsung Galaxy Note, if you're on AT&T or T-Mobile, you can go ahead and take advantage of that. If you're not willing to switch carriers, obviously that could play a role in your decision. Let's take a look at the cameras on both. 8 megapixel cameras, 1080p HD video recording capabilities on both of these. And then of course, I've got switch around to front here, and I've got a phone lighting up here. Wow, getting some notifications. And then over here, menu, and then settings over here, and then edit shortcuts, and all the different things, flash. And I've got some settings over here as well. I can change around panorama, continuous shot. Who says iPhone 5 is the only one that has panorama? Take it, iPhone. Take it, Apple. And then over here, I can do the cheese shutter, say cheese, and I can switch it around to the front facing. Let's get out of that. And then let's go to flash, and you can turn that in auto. And you have a lot of different settings on both of these to adjust brightness, focus, and more. Overall image quality, pretty decent on both. I give a slight edge to the Galaxy Note, but I'll bring over the iPhone 5 so we can take a look here and take a picture. And obviously, again, content creation, great for taking pictures because of the big display. Got that. And this is obviously not a scientific test by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll bring this over. And we'll do that. And bam, pinch to zoom. Relatively responsive there. You can see my nice greasy fingerprint on the back of the Apple logo. And over here as well, image capabilities, pretty decent. Let's quickly do a quadrant standard score on both of these devices so we can get an idea of the performance differences. We'll have quadrant standard here. Close. And let's do it over here as well. So big they're hard to hold in the hand. Quadrant standard. We'll run the full benchmark on both of these devices and wait for those to load up. Now, you know, call quality has been great on both of these devices. Obviously, it's network dependent depending on where you are in the nation, but both are pretty decent. I took these to their respective dead spots and I haven't had a problem making calls. We'll give a slight edge to the Galaxy Note in terms of overall wireless radio. I found that when, in a pretty dead T-Mobile area, it maintained a pretty decent connection. Still choppy, but I found that this one had a little bit more of a hard time. And at least, compare Verizon to Verizon, apples to apples. Other Verizon devices, I noticed this one kind of struggled a little bit in the call quality department as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Quadrant standard running right now, 2,080 milliamp hour battery over here, 2,500 milliamp hour battery over here. So overall, relatively impressive on both counts of the battery. That said, this one does drain a little bit faster and it takes a little bit longer to charge, so it seems, the Intuition. So keep that in mind. Both pretty decent batteries. Non-removable here. This one is removable, so if you're in an airport store like you see all the time, you can pick up a spare Galaxy Note battery if they have it. Take advantage of that. Carry around 2 or 3 if you're in the middle of a business trip or a busy meeting, and you can roll from there. So that's nice to have the non-removable battery. So we'll bookmark or benchmark the results here and take a look. 3,544 on the Intuition, 3,398 over on the Galaxy Note. So those are pretty close, but in terms of quadrant standard, slight edge to the LG Intuition. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, both of these obviously are great devices, and before we sign out, I want to do a speed test on both of these as well, just to compare T-Mobile's HSPA Plus to Verizon's 4G LTE, so you can kind of see Shelby loading up, and then you can see Atlanta. We'll go ahead and do it on Atlanta just to see which one comes in, and we'll wait for these to load. Verizon quotes 5 to 12 megabits per second on the download, 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload. Over here, download 11, and T-Mobile quotes various speeds, but this is 11 megabits per second on the download. On the upload, looking a little bit slow over here, about 1.6 megabits per second Over here, you're getting a much faster upload speed, even faster than the 2 to 5 Verizon quotes at 9.54 megabits per second. So in the internet speed test, the Intuition wins as well. So it's a tough balance here between carrier, individual device, and more. Both of these devices are a little bit old. I mean, this one was announced at Mobile World Congress. This one was announced at IFA last year. They're both in the process of being replaced. The Note 2 is coming out sometime in November. This one, the Optimus View 2 is rumored and actually was officially announced this morning, if I recall. So it's coming out as well. So these are both in the process of being replaced. That said, if you're in the U.S., I feel like we've kind of gotten the second choice here, the sloppy seconds with these two. So, you are kind of stuck with two older devices. Give it 6 months, maybe the Optimus View 2 and the Note 2 will be here and we can do a dogfight. And I do notice that these devices are making their way a little bit faster to the U.S. than they were last year. That said, a dogfight winner has to be declared. By a very slight edge, it does go to the Samsung Galaxy Note for a couple of reasons. One, I find that Samsung's user interface overall is a little bit more fleshed out. It's definitely it works a little bit more with Android 4.0. It's a little bit more compatible with things. Like in terms of just overall fluidity and ease of use, that's an area where while this has some great personalization choices, they really struggle. I find that it kind of stutters and lags from time to time, and that's something to keep in mind. Also, display size, a little bit easier to hold in the hand here. The S Pen functionality and the fact that you can store the S Pen makes it a little bit better over here. And the fact that it's on multiple carriers, AT&T and T-Mobile, gives it a slight edge as well. So you have some choice there when it comes to carrier intercompatibility, at least in terms of the device. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. And be sure to hit us up. We're doing the greatest tech giveaway ever, too. Be sure to check it out at the Facebook page. And hit me up on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter, on Facebook, at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more dogfights between hot, high-end devices like this. And as always, we'll see you next time.